Your All Holiness, Your Eminences, distinguished audience, I am very pleased to be with you today and make my modest contribution as a politician, but not as an eager politician, as a person who was pushed to the politics, but a person who was not interested at all in politics. When I came back from my last posting in Vienna, I was dreaming of constructing a small hut in the middle of hazelnut gardens of my grandfather on the coast of the Black Sea. And at that time, Mr. Abdullah Gül invited me to join them as founding member of the present ruling party, AKP. I did not know what it meant to become a founding member of the party, and I went to his office and I said, if you forgive me for my ignorance, I don't know what it means to become a founding member. Is it something important, or is it only an etiquette, a label? He said, after all, it's an etiquette, but it's a very important etiquette. And this is how I joined politics. And for this reason, I now put to the second degree my dream of writing my memoirs of 40 years of diplomacy. So when I'm among such a knowledgeable people on the role of the religion and religious leaders on the refugee crisis, I feel very much like a layman, an ordinary person, but having served very long time in the Middle East, I happen to be the longest serving Turkish diplomat in the Middle Eastern countries. I served 4 years in Syria, 4 years in Saudi Arabia, and 4 years in Egypt. Since I speak also a little bit Arabic, I think that I know a little better than many others on these intricacies of the Middle Eastern affairs. So for this reason, I believe that I am slightly entitled to say some words on the importance and intricacy of this refugee crisis, because I still maintain my relations with my Syrian friends since more than 35 years ago now. The refugee problem put its imprint on the year 2015, as Her Excellency Diamandopoulos mentioned, because of the Syrian crisis and the refugee crisis of Syria, because in Syria there are several layers of crises. One of them is refugee crisis. Even if you solve the refugee crisis in Syria, the problem is not solved. There are other crises also in Syria stemming from the intervention of the outside actors, foreign actors in the Syrian crisis. The role of the religion in the solution or alleviating, solution is not possible because the problem will not be solved, but alleviation of the sufferance of the refugees, the role of the religious leader is of paramount importance, because a refugee, different from the migrant worker or economic immigrant. Again, it was, I think, Her Excellency Diamandopoulos who called these people that they are the ones who had to choose between their life on the one hand and escaping the trouble and becoming a refugee. The recent agreement between Turkey and the EU actually provides that Turkey has, while the refugees are in Turkey, as this distinction has to be made between the economic migrants on the one hand, and the political refugees, that's to say, those who were forced to seek refuge in a foreign country because their life was exposed to danger. And when we think of the psychology of the person who decided to leave his environment, his house, his friends, perhaps part of his family, back home, and to seek refuge in another country, this is a major decision for him or for her. So these persons had no other choice but to seek refuge and shelter in other places. And as we have witnessed recently, many drowned in the Aegean Sea when they were trying to cross in the rudimentary boats from the mainland Turkey to the Greek islands and seek ways from there to the European countries. And the stranded corpse of a small child of 3.5 years old in Bodrum, of course, was heartbreaking for everyone. So this raised an awareness, together with, of course, tens of thousands of the refugees knocking at the door of the European countries. This also caused a rise in the awareness in the European countries for the importance of the refugee problem. Here, of course, we have to compare what we could expect from the refugees and their religious leader on the one hand, and the religious leaders of the new host country. The refugees themselves, and perhaps if they have a leader among them, a religious leader, has other priorities than thinking of the social environment in the country that he is going to settle down. Whereas the host country has an already established social order. They are better equipped, better organized, they have their church, mosque, and other things. So one can expect more effort from the host society than the refugees, because the refugees themselves, they have other priorities. And the institute where Mark Donfried is chairing as director in Berlin, the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy, and I am in my capacity as the member of as a layman or simple soldier of this institute. And we try to teach our students the importance of cultural diplomacy. That's to say, cultural diplomacy, to make an effort to understand the culture of the other side. Religious leader for the refugees will have to make better effort to understand the culture, and the religion, of course, is one of the basic elements of the culture. So try to understand their culture, their religion, and first of all, the religious leaders will understand them, and also will try to make their people to understand better the culture of the incoming people. This is how we can elevate the problem. I don't say that we can solve the problem. Solution of the problem is very difficult, but elevate the problem, because in the cultural relations and the religion element in the culture is very important, but as now it is, and in the past, the religion was used to attain the political goal of many politicians. Mrs. Diamantopoulos will understand me better, because politicians are also using from time to time religion in order to better achieve or achieve more easily their political goals. So as long as this drive will remain in the mind of the politician, it becomes more difficult. If we can separate the religion as devotion to God, especially in the Abrahamic religion, so that there is something common, at least it is Abrahamic part of the three monotheist religion. So there is something common, and if you can clear the political dimension of it, so religious leader may render a very important service to the alleviation of the refugees. So I would like to draw your kind attention to this aspect of the question, and will thank you again for having invited me to this very important meeting. Thank you.